Shandong, an agricultural giant and economic powerhouse on the east coast of China.
A land with captivating landscapes.
A testament to ancient Chinese civilization.
Home to over 100 million people and the cradle of unique culinary delights. Join us in our special series, Fields of Hope,
to see how rural revitalization has transformed people's lives in Shandong and beyond. Only on CGTN. Shandong, an agricultural giant and economic powerhouse on the east coast of China. How rural revitalization has transformed people's lives in Shandong and beyond. Only on CGTN. Shandong, an agricultural giant and economic powerhouse on the east coast of China.
A land with captivating landscapes.
A testament to ancient Chinese civilization.
home to over 100 million people and the cradle of unique culinary delights. Join us in our special series, Fields of Hope,
to see how rural revitalization has transformed people's lives in Shandong and beyond. Only on CGTN. Shandong, an agricultural giant and economic powerhouse on the east coast of China.
A land with captivating landscapes.
A testament to ancient Chinese civilization.
home to over 100 million people and the cradle of unique culinary delights. Join us in our special series, Fields of Hope,
to see how rural revitalization has transformed people's lives in Shandong and beyond. Only on CGTN. CGTN.
And hi everyone, welcome to CGTN's special series, Fields of Hope, where we are showing you the different development paths taken by China's rural areas as the country focuses its efforts on strengthening the vitality of its vast countryside. Now today we are at a place called Mount Likou. This is a beautiful scenic area in the city of Weihai in East China's Shandong province. Now here, as you can see, we can find lush green mountains, lucid waters, and are very close both to the Bergh Sea and the Yellow Sea. Now this area used to be home to a poor village, but now has transformed into a tourist hotspot thanks to supportive policies and local authorities working together hand in hand with local residents to build a brighter future together. Now, the province of Shandong is a powerhouse when it comes to agriculture. We're also coming to you live on a day called the Farmers' Harvest Festival here in China, which is a day of celebration, appreciation, and respect for the hard work of those that allow us to put food on the table. So let's dig deeper into the importance of agriculture in China's efforts to strengthen its countryside with my colleagues who are spread out across Shandong province. Our Michelle Vandenberg is in the cornfields of Rushan. Nicole Ng is hugging the coast of Shandong and Bergh. Our Zhu Zhu is in the fruit growing hub of Yantai. And joining me here on Mount Likou is Professor Zhang Zhuanhong, a rural development expert from China Agricultural University. Professor Zhang, welcome, and welcome to everyone joining us here on our live stream. So, like I mentioned, Shandong has a very strong agriculture sector. The variety, flavors, and freshness of the produce and crops you can find here is absolutely amazing. So, let's take a closer look first at just how important Shandong is to China's overall agriculture sector. Take a look.
Shandong accounts for 5% of the farmland in China and also a sixth of the coastal line in the country. These unique traits enable the province to develop diversified agriculture, ranging from crop farming to fishery, all of which made Shandong the highest yielding region in China for several years. In 2020, Shandong became the first Chinese province with annual agricultural output in excess of 1 trillion yuan or 143 billion US dollars. The output kept on rising in the next year and accounted for nearly 8% of the overall agricultural output in the country. Shandong is not only a leading domestic supplier of grain, fresh produce, and aquatic products, but also a major food exporter. Last year, 22% of farm goods shipped from China to overseas markets came from Shandong, more than any other provinces. The best sellers included garlic, apples, oysters, etc. Some of the products are popular enough to be pillar industries of a small town's economy. For example, Rushan, located on the coast of the Yellow Sea, is now China's largest county-level oyster producer, with annual output of 500,000 tons. Booming agriculture is also improving the livelihood of rural residents, who accounted for 40% of Shandong's population. Their per capita disposable income reached 20,000 yuan last year for the first time, much higher than the national average. Shandong is also pivoting towards tech-driven and quality-oriented growth in the agriculture sector. According to the local government's 2021 to 2025 Bergh plan, new measures include an agriculture technology pilot zone in the Yellow River Delta, modern farming plans for 17 types of specialty produce, as well as inclusive financing programs that extend funding support for farmers.
All right, let's check in now with our Michelle Vandenberg over in Rushan. And Michelle, you are, I believe, standing next to a cornfield. I love myself some grilled corn. I don't know about you. Tell us more about what's going on where you are.
All right, thank you, Michael, and hi, everyone. So, as you can see, I'm in a cornfield in Rushan, Shandong province, and corn planting is actually the largest in terms of the square meter footage. And besides corn, in Shandong, also peanuts and wheat and apple, of course, are also their specialties. And today, you might have seen, of course, you have had corn before. You also probably seen a cornfield before, but you might not have seen how corn is planted or harvested, and also how peanuts and other plants and other wheats are planted. So we're gonna show you exactly how they're done here in Rushan County. And joining me today is Mr. Wang. 王先生，你好，你好，幸会，谢谢您今天给我们讲解。So he's gonna be my tour guide and also your tour guide for this huge thousands of mu of cornfield to show you what they're doing here and how everything is harvested, because harvest season is in the corner. I think 您刚才跟我讲说，就是今年这个玉米是大概是还要等一段时间再收，是吧？现在还没有开始收，
大概半个月左右吧。
半个月哈。So it takes another 20 days, half a month, to harvest these corn. 为什么现在还没有成熟到一定？
对，现在是灌浆期。它现在收也可以影响产量嘛？是说现在还不是很饱满，是不是？我们打开一个看一下。现在还不，现在整体饱满了，它那个淀粉还少。So it's still lacking starch. 对
，in the corn. 就看到这个皮儿
比较光滑，但是里边含那个淀粉。对，现在灌浆。
So inside the corn kernels, now there's more starch going into the kernel. So in about 20 days, these corn will be ready to be harvested. So right now we're a little bit early. 但是吃的玉米是不是我们已经收回茬了？
已经没有了，
不能吃了，是吧？
对，不能吃了。
那吃的时候是什么时候收的？
吃的那个是水果玉米
就不同的玉米，是不是？
对，不同的品种。
Right. So the corn that we eat every day on our table, corn cob and such, are actually different types of corn than these ones. So these ones are only for other use. For example, to feed livestock. 这是 农作主要是为了喂牲口是吧？喂牲口和做一些
做饲料
工业，
人吃的一部分。
人吃一部分 ，right? So these are mostly used for feeding livestock or for industrial use, and also there also can be processed. So like the porridge, the corn porridge that we drink, we eat every day, that those are made from these corn, but they need to be processed first. So the harvesting season is around the corner. As we can see, it's a beautiful field behind me. 这大概是多大的面积？咱们这边？
咱这边是1000来亩。1000
来亩。
咱公司总共是3000多亩嘛。
So this field itself is about 1,000 亩, and this company has about 3,000 亩. So 咱们这个公司这些地是说是从农民手里是流转的，是不是这意思 ？Okay, so he told me before that this field, this square footage is actually rented from local farmers, and what they do is they accumulate all the land from individual farmers and put them together, and they invest a lot of money. He told me it's about 4 million RMB in initial investment to buy all the machines, to build these storage rooms, to build the houses for these workers, and then they accumulate all these land to farm together. This way, it increased the efficiency of corn farming. 这种情况下会提高产量，也会就是比较怎么说比较有效率，是不是？
对，适合大面积作业管理，省人工，然后高产。
Okay, so as he said, it's more suitable for a large area planting, and it saves a lot of labor and also increase the productivity of these corn. So that's why, as you can see, a huge land. And we're going to show you the 4 million, where the money went, right? Because it not just includes the land, but also a lot of machines. So 我们去看一看，就是您刚才跟我说的，对，这些机器用来收玉米的，
收玉米粒的，
收玉米的，还有这些种这些
播种机，
种花生的，对吧？种玉米的，种小麦的，还有收玉米的，然后收完了以后还要处理它，是不是？
收完玉米颗粒儿，然后给它
晒干、
烘干啊，烘干。
烘干也有一个机器，不是说就放在地上晒，
不是有烘干机。
Okay, so yeah, it's a whole process from planting the corn, and then 玉米是一年种一次玉米，一次小麦，是不是？
对，种2季儿。
小麦是冬天播种，就是说
冬天
这个玉米收完了以后，我们就开始播小麦了。
对。
然后大概是6月份
，5月底吧。
5月底收小麦。So after harvesting these corn in about November, December, wheat will be planted on the exact same fields. And then around end of May, wheat will be harvested, and then corn will be planted again. So it's going to be, they're going to be rotating. So there's a lot of machines for planting corn, planting wheat, planting peanuts, and all that. So we're going to show you all of that. So here behind me, 这个是个什么？
这是收什么的？这个收玉米、小麦通用的。
哦，通用的 ，OK。
对，收小麦也是这种。
Okay, so this is a tractor that actually collects the corn and also wheat. 那您给我们大概介绍介绍怎么个收法？
这个收玉米，然后这个传送带。
这块是收的，是吧？前面这个是收的。
对，这个叫割台。
哦。
割完以后，走那个传送带，它里边。
They're collected in the front. 来，给这个一个 shot. So here we got these kind of hands to actually collect all the corn. 那一下就从这些这梗上就四行。
对
Okay, and then it goes into that red channel all the way to the back where there's a storage. Oh, and then in the process of going through that red channel, the corn actually becomes corn kernels already, and then the kernels are stored in this big tank, right? 这能存多少
？1000多公斤吧。
1000多公斤。So more than 1,000 kilogram of corn kernel will be stored in here. And once it's full, the alarm will go off, and then you go to wherever the storage is to dump all the kernels in the storage. So everything is done in this one machine, from the field to the little corn kernels that you see on your dining table. So that's all done in this machine. 这一个大概多少钱？这个
15万多，这个加大马力的。
150,000 no. 15万 ，OK, 150,000 RMB ish cost for each one of this. And 这个一天能收多少亩
？150亩到200亩吧。
Okay, one day this can collect 150 mu of corn. So this field behind me is about 1,000. It takes about 7 days for the whole field to be harvested, and just need one person. So as you can see, it really saves a lot of time and also labor labor needs. So that's really cool. 这个真的很省时间是吧？也省人工省时间 right? So besides the corn, of course, we're going to show you some other machines for maybe we'll try to make it. If we don't make it in time, there are about, I saw in that storage room, there's about 10 other machines. 大概你们那边有大概多少？10辆，我看有10多辆吧，各种的。
10几台吧，就农机具。各种
机器是吧？
哎，对。
不一定是收的，有播种的，有各种机器。
疏松的、深翻的、旋耕的、播种的、收割的。
对。So more than 10 machines are parked in the back, and 所以这个就是投资的一大部分，这就100多万了，是不是？
农机具
是一部分，是吧？
农机具跟这整体那个基础建设就差不多用了400万。
400万了。
这400万不算这个所有的租金、化肥、农资这块还没算。
还没有。Okay, so this whole buying all the machines and building, as you can see, I'm gonna have the camera guy give you a shot of this place where they invested to store all the machines, and also to store the corn kernels and other things. That's already about 4 million RMB of investment, and that's not including the renting of the fields. So it's a big investment. As he told me before, this is the way going forward, because there are less and less individual farmers, a lot less young people that are willing to stay in their hometown to farm themselves. So they choose to rent out their land, and maybe being employed in this company to work for them, but then they don't. This was a little bit more efficient to plant all together and by itself. But so before we go, let's just give you a quick peek at what it's like here. So this is the field. This is the storage, right? Right, the green part is where they store the crops. These machines are part of all the machines that's there. 这个是收花生收割机。Okay, so the red one in the corner is for collecting peanuts. The 3 middle ones are for making the ground ready for planting, and of course that one is again the same thing. And 这些是种地的是吧？种的。Okay, so these small ones are for planting. And this way is where the workers stay. And behind this, there's more fields. So there's just thousands and thousands of agricultural land here, and everything will be coming here to be stored and processed. And there's also machines to process the corn, to dry the corn, to make them into very small size. So it was really cool experience for me. I've never seen these machines before, and I didn't know how corn was collected. I just thought, people just go in there and collect them by themselves. But apparently, everything is done by a machine, and the efficiency has gone up a lot. So it's a great experience. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Back to you, Michael.
All right, thanks for that, Michelle, walking us through the process of planting and harvesting corn. Hopefully you'll get some fresh popcorn where you are. Thanks for that, Michelle.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I should try that.
Absolutely. Okay, let's get more on China's agriculture sector, and specifically the robust agriculture sector here in Shandong province, and bring in Professor Zhang Chunhong from China Agriculture University. Professor Zhang, first of all, I love where we are sitting right now. We are enjoying this nice, brisk mountain breeze. It's a little bit chilly, but it certainly wakes you up, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. It's really happy, to see you in person finally after so long time.
Yeah, to be here,
Come to
actually.
this very beautiful setting.
Yeah. I'm not sure if our audience can see because our Michelle Mandenberg was in Rushan talking about planting and harvesting corn. And we actually have baskets full of corn behind us. So maybe we can try some grilled corn afterwards. But I
Yes.
do want to get your take in terms of why is there such a robust agriculture sector for Shandong province? And what would you say are some of the unique characteristics of the ag sector here?
Okay, as you mentioned earlier, you see Shandong is indeed a powerhouse in China's agriculture. Shandong uses 1/6 of arable land and 1/52 of fresh water resources, but contributed to 1/6 of vegetable outputs.
Wow.
And 1/7 of aquatic products output, and also 1/3 of China's agriculture output exports.
Yeah.
So that's a huge contribution and achievements in Shandong.
Yeah.
I think at least there are 3 major reasons contributing to this. The first one is, of course, it's its natural advantage, like a very nice weather, climate conditions. Shandong belongs to warm, temperate, semi-humid, monsoon climate zones.
I didn't know there's
Yes.
actually monsoons that can come up here as well.
Yes,
Okay.
it can produce a variety of various agricultural products, of course, including animal husbandries and aquatic products, all those
Yeah.
kind of things. And Shandong has diverse landscape and also has rich germplasm resources.
Yeah.
That's one of the advantages, I think. The second, Shandong as the center of China, it has long-term farming civilization in China. I'm from Shandong. I can see, people in Shandong, farmers in Shandong are most diligent. You rarely find any empty or virgin land in Shandong. Every land is cultivated and in great detail with very subtle technologies.
Yeah.
And also, these Shandong people know how to maintain land use and land maintenance. Like, they use intercropping technologies from long time and use green manure and to fertilize the land. That's second. I think agriculture civilization is very important for China's agriculture development.
So you're saying that culture, that mindset of farming and agriculture is
Yes.
very deep rooted here in Shandong province.
Yes. The third one, I think, is technology and also kind of market-driven mechanism in Shandong. Shandong is the first province in China to call for developing agriculture through science and technology. You see the mechanization rate of agriculture in Shandong is very rich.
Yeah.
And also, you can see Shandong has the largest vegetable wholesale market. And of course, this is due to its very developed infrastructure, which Shandong is also a leader in this area.
Yeah.
So I think these are the major reasons. And if you talk about unique characteristics, I think one thing we need to mention is diversity in agricultural products. Yesterday when we walked through the Guan village, you can see in a small village several agricultural products were produced there, like chestnuts, sweet potato, corn, apples. Shandong ranks number 1 in several items like vegetable outputs, fruits outputs, oil seed outputs, and also rank number 2 in grain output and cotton output in China.
Yeah.
So diversity definitely, I think, is the unique characteristics of Shandong. Of course, as mentioned by your colleagues in different parts of Shandong, you see the fresh seafood, right?
Yeah.
Last night we tried the really fresh, impressive seafood in Shandong.
Yeah.
So that's really something, I think, very unique in Shandong.
I mean, diversity.
The freshness of food.
The freshness of the food, like you mentioned, the diversity, because vegetables, crops, I mean, fruits, aquatic products, animal husbandry, all found here in Shandong.
Yes.
I mean, you definitely mentioned some challenges when it comes to, we have constraints when it comes to arable land, when it comes to water resources, but based on what you're saying, Shandong, and I think China overall has turned these challenges into opportunities. But I do want to move on and then ask you about the importance of agriculture for China's overall strategy called rural vitalization, which aims to really further develop and strengthen the countryside of China. Because when we talk about rural vitalization, there are several things the country can do. For example, closing the urban-rural development gap, coordinated development between urban-rural areas, making sure the relationship between industry and agriculture is in the right place. So how important is agriculture specifically for rural vitalization, you think?
Agriculture development, we generally call industry development, of course, including rural tourism, right? First, second, and third industry, we see agriculture, processing, and also service sector. Our industry development is the most important components of rural revitalization strategy in China right now. And agriculture development is particularly important to rural revitalization in that, it creates jobs for rural people. And almost 40% of Chinese people still live in rural areas. That's very important. And the second, due to the advanced technology development, agriculture development is transforming a lot. That means, it can reduce the drudgery of rural laborers and increase the income of rural farmers, which makes rural area more attractive to people, including the people from urban areas, just like this village, it's turned into a kind of rural resorts, right? Resort place. And that's what you called about coordinated rural-urban development. Or we can say, to attract urban dynamism into rural areas. That's very important for this kind of rural revitalization strategy in China.
I mean, like I always say, because we work and live in a big city, I really wouldn't mind living and working in this place, right? So this is a great place, I think, to really rest and relax your mind. Professor Zhang, stay with us. We're going to come back to you in just a second. But I want to get now to the coastline of Shandong, and that's where our Nicole Ng is standing by for us in Rongcheng, where aquaculture is very strong. Nicole, where you are, there's lots of tasty and good seafood there. Nicole, tell us more.
That's right, Michael. I'm in Rongcheng, which is a coastal city in Shandong. We know the province is basically a peninsula, so it's flanked by sea on all three sides. And so it's famous for the kinds of seafood, the fresh seafood that you can have here, but also for producing seafood. Rongcheng is special in particular because it's home to a sea ranch called the Ailun Bay Sea Ranch, and we're going to talk a little bit about that ranch today. We know that this ranch was one of the first batches to be set up in the country, and you might be asking yourself, actually, what is a sea ranch? And you can think about it in terms of like farming in the ocean. So this harvest festival, we're going to take a look at what they grow and how they do it. Behind me over here, for example, we see these long, narrow tanks, and this is where baby abalones start their life. Before, at this ranch, they're brought out into the ocean and grown to maturity. And I'll bring your attention in a second over here too. We weren't able to get out on a boat today because of the time constraints for this show, but here they've set up an exhibition area where you can take a look at the variety of shellfish, of algae, seaweeds that they grow at this ranch. For example, I'll show you some of these. In this tank, for example, we have abalone, and they are quite sensitive to light. So they are grown under these tiles. I'll lift one up so you can take a look. There you go. They're quite big, these ones too. I'm not sure if you can see them moving on the sides. There's plenty to see, so I'm going to put these guys back down. Beside them, we have here some scallops. I'm going to get the cameraman to zoom in to see if you can see this one moving around. And all of these have been set up so you can... There's quite a few jumping around right now. So you can touch, you can interact, and you can learn more about how these shellfish, these sea creatures grow and how they interact. I'm going to try and pick one up. Let's see if this guy... maybe... Oh, he's moving a little bit. I'm not sure if you can see. Oh, here we go. Here we go. All right, I'll put him back in the water now. So huge variety here. We've got oysters, we've got other types of scallops, clams. Over here, this is something new that I've only seen for the first time here, and it's called a sea squirt, and I'll pick one up too. Let's see, maybe this one. What happens when you press it is it squirts water out, so it does exactly what its name suggests. Over on the other side too, we have starfish here, we have sea urchins. Oh yeah. Here we go. I'll try and pick one of these up. Okay. I hadn't picked one up until I got here for the first time. You can see its spikes moving around. It actually has these soft tendrils that it uses to attach itself to rocks and other surfaces. And if I flip him over, there's actually the mouth of the sea urchin there. That you can maybe see his teeth. He's trying to crawl away here. But I'll put him back for now. Here we are. So this whole area is dedicated for people to learn more about how the sea ranch works, including learning about the variety of things that they grow. And there's an extra part to the exhibition hall here. I'll just point you over here. And this is to show how exactly they grow it. And it's by you hanging these cages and using these ropes, which they suspend in the ocean. That's right. So what's special about this ranch too is they've been doing research over the decades to understand how these sea animals and plants can live together. I'll take you back a little bit to the history of Rongcheng, and the rumor is that since the Ming Dynasty, so for hundreds of years, this was a fishing village. This always had a fishing industry, but in the 1980s, overfishing depleted a lot of the stocks in this area, and so they've had to find a way to produce seafood while without taking a huge toll on the environment. So they brought together dozens of scientists to develop a system of aquaculture. So, for example, they take they grow algae and seaweed and sea plants close to the surface of the water. Underneath that, they've set up a range of shellfish in cages that they grow out in the ocean. And then they've also placed artificial reefs on the seabed, and that's to promote wild fish populations. All of these plants and animals interact together. For example, the seaweeds will produce oxygen for shellfish and fish, and the shellfish in turn, the extra nutrients it produces, that can also help feed the other animals. So it's a bit of a circular system, and that makes it more sustainable. We got out on a boat with a researcher yesterday, for example, to learn more about this system. With this layered kind of system, firstly, they're able to grow more in the same amount of space. We know that over 30% more output value per mu compared with those traditional methods of fishing and aquaculture. So one of the key points is sustainability too. The researcher told us that even after decades of growing things in the ocean, in this bay, Island Bay that you see over here, the water quality remains high. It's a bit windy out there today, but you can probably see that there's a platform with some domes in the distance. And that's part of a push for tourism at Island Bay Sea Ranch. That exhibition hall that you saw was also part of it. It's a popular place come the holiday season for students, for families, and it's a great place to learn about how sea creatures live. It's also great fun. It was great fun for us to come and explore here the past few days. You can take a boat out there to the platform. You can pull up some of the cages that they grow the shellfish in by yourself. It's very tough. You can basically live a day like a fisherman, or I guess what you could say here, a sea rancher. So from a fishing village here in Rongcheng to now, from capturing to now aquaculture, and really a city now Rongcheng has become. And it's become a leader in this sustainable model of aquaculture. We were told by the manager that it was even heralded an example of best practice by the Food and Agriculture Organization, for example. So we've taken this opportunity, this harvest festival, to learn more about how this food is grown in this context of sustainability, Michael.
Nicole showing us sustainable aquaculture and the diversity of seafood along the coastline of Shandong. Many thanks for that. And hopefully you can try out some really nice seafood where you are, Nicole. All right, now let's get to the city of Yantai, which is renowned here in China for the quality and diversity of its fruits, and check in with our Zhu Zhu. Zhu Zhu, what do you got for us?
Hi, Michael. Well, so we are now here in Chen's family village in Zhaoyuan Yantai of Shandong province. You can see many beautiful ladies are dancing behind me, so you can feel the very happy festive atmosphere here. And we are very glad to be joined by Zhang Wenping with the local Bureau of Rural Affairs and Agriculture. 张科长，非常欢迎您加入我们。能跟我们介绍一下今年的这个丰收节，带我们看看。
你好，猪猪，欢迎来到第5届招远市农民丰收节。本届丰收节，我们采取了各种各样的活动。首先带你看一下我们的农产品品鉴会。
So let's go inside to check out what are some agricultural products they have harvested this year. This way. Wow, look at these very large and beautiful grapes. So this is their special grape called a sunrise rose. 这是我们这个本地的这个
大户阳光玫瑰葡萄。
So it's called a sunshine and rose grapes. So you can imagine they're very large and 我们可以试一下，对，你可以来尝一下呢。It's really sweet, and the seeds are really tiny.
猪猪，跟我看一下，这是我们的非常丰富的水果，有名的烟台苹果。
You see, this is their popular Yantai apple. So, a Yantai apple exported from China account for nearly half of China's total apple export. They are also very sweet and large, and you can also see many. Wow, 这个特别。这个形状特别的特别，所以它是叫蟠桃，是吗？
对，蟠桃。
So it's called a plate peach. So you can see it just look like a plate and it's really large. 然后咱们还有非常多的，
这是我们的特产秋月梨。
像这个秋天生产的这个梨子 ，these special types of pears. And we know that our hometown is also very popular for its processing industry. 我知道咱们当地的这个加工产业也非常的发达。
对，我们招远不仅有丰富的农产品，我们的加工业也非常丰富。我们有4大产业集群，大家映入眼帘的可以看一下我们的苹果加工产业集群、连垒的罐头和果汁。
So you can see these areas, they are showcasing their special types of juice. So you can see that this type, it says it is not from concentrate. So it has used those high-end technology to store fresh juice. It does not have any preservatives, so it's really healthy. 然后看到咱们这还有这种像这个罐头，这个有什么特别的吗？
对，这个罐头其实是我们一个最原始的一个工艺，就是把它蒸煮完了之后直接装到瓶子里，而且我们的罐头产品绝对没有防腐剂。
So these canned products So when you see canned food, you may think it is not healthy and does contain many preservatives. But this one, it is just really healthy and do not contain any preservatives. So it can retain the original fruits inside. 我相信这个也非常受我们外国朋友欢迎。
对，现在在国际市场上也是受到大家的一致好评。
它主要会出口到哪些国家？
出口到日本呀、东南亚呀、美国呀，或者是欧洲这些地区都会有在用。
So it is
比较方便也比较安全。
It is exported to many foreign countries such as Japan and European countries. Those have very strict and high class for levels for food. So this is their very local specialties. 我们再往那边看看。
So 看一下，这是我们的畜牧产业，元龙黑牛，这是我们粮油产业代表五果花生油。再带你来到我们的龙口粉丝，我们招远是粉丝之都嘛。
So their hometown is also known as the capital of rice noodle. Wow! 这是
先品尝一
下。这是咱们这个粉丝。
对，是即食粉丝。
So this is made of their special white rice noodle. 我们看一下这个原材料。
对，这个粉丝在中国已经有300多年的文化了，然后招远是粉丝的发源地，也是主产地。
This white rice noodles is their local specialty. It is made of beans and it's very high protein. It has a history of over 300 years.
这是我们家属于这种高端产品，它的丝径大约有0.7毫米，蒸煮非常好。
So yeah, so this one is really high protein. It is compared with those normal red rice noodles. It was made of beans or also those high-end many high protein products here. So it is also a very healthy and very nutrient product. 谢谢您。So and you can see that this manor house is also one of their local very special place as well. It is actually a national level demonstration zone for modern agriculture. So you can see that many farmers are selling their special products here, such as they are baking for the sweet potatoes here, as you can see. 咱们这边是这个烤地瓜是吗？
对。
我们可以品尝一下吗？
可以。
谢谢。
正烤着呢。
So they are baking their sweet potatoes here. And you can see that this whole demonstration zones, there are many buildings here. They are actually reconstructed from those traditional housing. They are reconstructed into those B&B homestays and also these business zones. So before the pandemic, this is actually a very popular snack street, food street for local people. So as we know that a Chen's family village here, they have about 1,400 farmers live here, and about 70% have worked in the recreational agriculture sector. And their modern agriculture sector is also a very booming. You can see those high-end technologies to help them store their food and also promote and upgrade their whole agricultural system. So we learned that we have, with all these new technologies and new models of development, I believe that the local farmers here can live an even better life in the future. So Michael, back to you. Happy Harvest Festival.
All right, thanks for that, Zhu Zhu, in what I would say is one of the largest fruit growing hubs here in China, in the city of Yantai, which is actually not that far from where we are right now, about 70 kilometers to our west. Okay, let's get more on China's agriculture sector and bring back Professor Zhang Chuanhong from China Agricultural University. Professor Zhang, so relatively speaking, China has less arable land compared to, say, the European Union and the United States, and it needs to use this relatively less arable land to feed the world's most populous nation of over 1.4 billion people. So talk to us about the models of China's agriculture development that you see here that allows this country to feed so many people.
You know, global food security actually is now a very serious challenge.
Yeah.
And in my point of view, I think global food shortage actually is not caused by the supply. Globally speaking, actually we have enough food supply. But the major problem is the distribution or the whole value chain. From that perspective, agriculture business actually play a very important role to cover every juncture or spots of the whole value chain. when we talk about China's agribusiness, before, we usually think, agribusiness is separated from rural areas, right? But nowadays, we see more and more involvement of rural people. They start to open their own businesses, like, rural cooperatives, in the form of rural cooperatives. Farmers not only participate in agricultural production, but also, they can become the shareholders by contributing their land, their resources. They can share benefits and have more power to get involved in decision-making process. Yeah. That's definitely a new model. And the second, I think, due to the technology development, many rural farmers, they can have their own agribusiness, run their own agribusiness. If you see farmers in Shandong, one of the largest vegetable production hub in China, farmers there can remotely control their greenhouses. They control the temperature, the humid, they can lift the shade, and also, they sell their vegetable products through the live stream online platforms. All these due to the development of the internet and also the online platforms. Live stream is a kind of a very popular way. So that's actually nurtured a lot of rural people, become rural entrepreneurs. They started to open their own business, and definitely insert quite a lot of engines, we can see development engines into rural areas. So this is definitely another kind of new model. The third one, I think, if we look at the existing agribusinesses, they started to transform from traditional form of production. They used to produce quite a lot of fertilizers, chemicals. Now they started to use new technology like biotechnology, to produce more organic food, green food, and to reduce, to help achieve China's environment protection goals, like reduce greenhouse emission and to achieve carbon neutrality goals, all those kind of goals. So this is definitely a good trend, I think, for agriculture development. Certainly will contribute to more sustainable development of China's agriculture sector.
And Professor Zhang, what I find amazing is that with relatively less arable land, you're feeding so many people. Because last year and this year, we've had some extreme weather, right? Last year, we had some pretty rare floods, I think, in the north of China during the autumn season. And then, of course, this year, the world was experiencing some extreme heat waves. And yet, we are still expecting a bumper harvest this year for China. So in terms of relatively less arable land, we have extreme weather conditions, we have disturbances and disruptions perhaps from sporadic COVID-19 outbreaks, and yet China is still expecting another bumper harvest this year when it comes to grains and maintaining that food security. I think that element is quite impressive in terms of feeding over 1.4 billion people.
Yes, I think, China's agriculture is more resilient to natural disasters compared to other developing countries, including developed countries as well. I think the most important thing is the advanced agriculture technology or infrastructure. Agriculture infrastructure play a very important role. That's why if you see China's new policies on agricultural development and rural revitalization, they focus on building the high standard agriculture fields. That actually is the goal to develop more accurate agriculture. That means, to save water, to ensure high and stable yield during the harsh weather and very different climate conditions. That's what we are doing now. Our efforts is going that way. And another is the mechanization of agriculture and upscaling of agriculture also helps to reduce the the risks of agriculture. Agriculture is a very fragile, actually vulnerable sector. Yes, that actually agriculture, infrastructure, and development technology of science and technology all helps to improve the resilience of agriculture sector in China.
Yeah. Again, I just find it amazing that China is doing this with 1/40th of the arable land per household compared to the European Union and 1/400th of the arable land per household of the United States and still able to maintain food security for 1.4 billion people. I think is quite an achievement in itself.
Yes.
Okay, Professor Zhang, stay with us. We're going to come back to you in just a second. So, rural land here in China is owned by something called collectives, and over the years, the government has been deepening rural land reforms in order to optimize the use of resources that may have been formerly underutilized or previously unused in China's countryside. And doing so helps to provide local rural communities with more income and helps to raise their living standards as well. So here's how China's land system has evolved over the years. Take a look.
When China embarked on a reform and opening up path, it came out with a household contract responsibility system for rural areas. The system confers twin rights on the land. While the property rights for the land are owned by the collective, the contract rights are vested with the households. The first round of the contract was 15 years. The lease generally ended in 1997. The second round was renewed for 30 years to 2027. And then again was renewed by another 30 years. Such a move was aimed at motivating farmers as they have relative autonomy over land use. They can decide what to grow and keep the returns from their agricultural output, but there are still restrictions on transfer of rural land holdings. The system was seen as a major milestone. Between 1978 and 1984, China's land reforms contributed to nearly 50% of the agricultural output growth. However, the system has its limitations as China's economy continues to grow. First, there are the increasing numbers of young people from rural areas who move into big cities, leaving huge swaths of farmland unused. Elderly villagers left behind the countryside are unable to till the land. Second, the curbs on the land transfer pose difficulties for those wanting to scale up operations. In 2014, the central government floated the idea of market-oriented reforms, which encouraged farmers to transfer their land management rights for the first time. The core of the reform was the so-called three-right separation system, in which ownership right, contract right, and management right are kept independent of one another. The separation allows farmers to retain contract rights over their land, and only transfer the management right if they choose to lease the land to others, mortgage it to banks, or invest it in a cooperative in exchange for shares. The reform also protects farmers as they can be free from concerns about losing their land, even if they migrate with their family to cities. It also provides farmers more income as they can lease out farmland and receive rent. In the meantime, by facilitating land transfer to private entities who have the required capital and expertise, participants can expand production. The per capita disposable income of rural residents was 10,500 yuan in 2014. The level has climbed to 19,000 in 2021.
Now, one trend of modernization around the world is people moving out of the countryside and into urban centers. And of course, you'll find this situation in China too. But as our Nicole Ng reports, one village appears to be turning the tide on this trend. Take a look.
It's been called the rural exodus, young people leaving the countryside to seek opportunity in cities. But in one village in China's east, that trend is somewhat in reverse.
The village of Xiputou, where I am, has seen a number of young people return after graduating from university, many hoping to bring new ideas and knowledge back to their hometowns.
Yu Zhenrong returned 7 years ago. He's not considered the typical farmer, his primary work is in a lab, cultivating new varieties of plants. For example, a strawberry modified to resist viruses.
At the time, most people didn't know what virus-free seedlings were, so we tried planting 2 batches first. As soon as we did, the yield, the flavor, and resistance to diseases improved. We saved on pesticides and labor. The yield was up, and so was the price. Later, we switched that variety.
Higher prices with less risk, and Yu says it's not only helped farmers, but students and researchers too.
What students learn, if you ask them to go on farm, they go with no experience, only theory. Villagers like the farmers here have a lot of experience, but with traditional methods. They don't have the new technology, new varieties, and concepts. So it's a complementary relationship.
Since Yu, there have been others, many also science students, but some just looking for a simpler life.
I graduated from Sichuan Normal University, and my major is very different from this. It's just that I like this place. I like the land. Every day I'll go into the tent to pick vegetables, feed chickens, get eggs. We have a pig breeding base in Rongcheng, so we go back and forth.
The rural life with a modern twist for a future generation. Nicole Ng, CGTN, Weihai, Shandong Province.
All right, let's bring back Professor Zhang Zhenghong from China Agricultural University. And Professor Zhang, you know, in a village that I visited, one person I spoke to, he said perhaps the scarcest resource for building up the countryside is talent. So how do you attract high caliber talent, and not just attract, but perhaps even retain talent here in the countryside?
Yeah, you know, for many countries, urbanization process actually is unrevocable or cannot be reversed for countries' modernization or development. But in China, you know, China is different, as China's rural areas still contribute a large part of rural population living conditions and livelihoods, all these kind of things. And due to this long-term rural-urban divide, many rural people migrated to the cities to find jobs. But most recently, the situation has changed. You know, many young people return to rural villages because they have new job opportunities, and we can see public provision services has greatly improved due to poverty reduction efforts and also rural revitalization efforts. So I can share you a story. Actually, it's an experiment we are doing in a very remote village in Yunnan. It's a Miao village, ethnic village. It used to be a very backward village, we can say, very remotely located. And just from last year, you know, we helped the local government to develop a certain kind of rural tourism industry. We built coffee bars, and we also built, you know, the entertainment centers, the bookshops, and reception centers. We created job opportunities for young people, and we made a kind of advertisement to find local village CEOs. That means we find managerial experts to come to the village and help to run the new industry of the village. You know what? 105 people applied for that position.
Village CEO.
Yeah, village CEO. It's nationwide. Most of them have master degree or at least bachelor degrees. You know, and finally, after initial screening, we selected 14 people came to the final list. We selected 4 people,
wow.
and now they are working in the village happily. But we gave them 3 months of internship. After 3 months, we only choose 1 or 2 of them to work in the village. So
hold on, there are 100 people something applied.
Yes.
And then finally it's just 1 person. So let's just say a 1% acceptance rate.
Yes.
That's more difficult than some of the world's most prestigious universities, I would say, in terms of the selection process.
Yes,
right?
yes. That's something really, unimaginable nowadays. With the development of rural areas, many young people would like to work in this kind of working environment, near home and without long-term commute, you know, and also enjoy the very beautiful natural scenery and can play their potential, to dig up the potentials of rural areas, contribute to rural revitalization. So that's something really remarkable, I think.
We're a bit short on time, Professor Zhang. I want to ask you one final question before we leave, because when we think about modernization, we often think about gleaming skyscrapers, but China has explicitly said that rural development has become an indispensable and vital part of the country's modernization drive. Why do you think that is? That might be different in terms of attitude compared to other countries.
Yes, as I said, rural areas' importance in China, as more than 40% of people still living in rural areas. That's one thing. And the second, if we want to achieve common prosperity, that means, to leave no one behind. Without development of rural areas, it's not the substantial modernization, right? If we want to reach kind of certain kind of substantial modernization, we need to lift everybody out of poverty and to improve their sense of happiness, to improve their well-being. So that's very important. I think to achieve common prosperity, that means, to achieve the common prosperity of to have more sustainable, inclusive development of everybody, no matter it's urban area or rural area. So, of course, cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen will definitely thrive and prosper. But villages here on Mount Likou must prosper as well. That is China's development path going forward. Professor Zhang, fantastic insights. Thank you so much. Professor Zhang Chunhong from China Agricultural University. And many thanks to my colleagues spread across Shandong province as well, showing us the diversity and the strength of the agriculture sector here in Shandong province. And of course, China has historically been a civilization that has thrived on agriculture. And the country certainly cherishes this history and is on its way to building a strong and modern agriculture sector as well. So I hope we've provided you with some fascinating and thought-provoking insights on this special live stream in CGTN's Fields of Hope special coverage. I'm Michael Wang here on Mount Likou. I'm going to go enjoy this beautiful mountain breeze a little bit more and maybe have myself some grilled corn. We'll see you again next time. Thanks for joining us.